Should we start the podcast there, bud?
Yeah, let's do it, baby. Yeah, let's do it.
Fuck. All right.
Hey, well, we were talking about your hair at the beginning and how beautiful and voluptuous it is today.
Voluptuous?
When you had your headphones off, it was looking like, good.
Doesn't look good at all.
But that's a great segue into our conversation about genetics, DNA, and ancestry.
Genetics and hereditary assets and, ancestry.
Yeah. Like you and me, white as fuck. The whitest of the pick. What are you? British Isles? Probably some Scandinavian, German.
I don't actually really know. I mean, definitely for sure Irish. Probably some German. I never did ancestry.com.
Yeah.
Fucking weirds me out. I don't know. It seems weird. You're just gonna send your fucking DNA to some fucking corporate vault. They're just gonna be able to store it forever and then eventually make copies of you and make clones. This is how Star Wars started.
If they made copies and clones of us, would that like reboot our consciousness back online?
I don't know.
Like, would it be the same consciousness that you and me are experiencing in this lifetime? Like just rebooted?
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume that if fuck, I don't know. I don't know.
Fuck, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Like, would they have their own? I would assume they would. Any clone would have their own self-image and sort of self-awareness, and they would have different experiences.
Yeah.
So they would definitely have to have a different mindset than you would have. But I don't know. Is consciousness in the mind? Is consciousness in a soul? And if you're a clone, does your soul get cloned? I don't know.
Right? Wouldn't that be weird? There's only one way to find out.
Let's clone ourselves, dude.
I got my DNA in one of those research labs, the MyHeritage. It says I'm 66.6% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh.
66.6.
Yeah.
Fucking hardcore.
It's actually 66.4. It's 66.4, but 66.6 is way better. 0% English, so take that.
You fucking limey grits. Yeah, fuck off, mate.
Wankers. 26.4% Scandinavian, which that's from the raping of the Vikings, is my guess.
Yeah, the raping and
it could have also not been rape. It could have been totally a consensual situation in the more settlement era. Who knows? Yeah. I'm going to paint a prettier picture for myself. These ones, this is where it gets weird. Because I only got 4 readings. 66.4 Irish, Scottish, 26.4 Scandinavian, 5.6 North African, and 1.6% Nigerian.
Oh, you got a little bit of West Africa in you.
I mean, we're talking thousands of years back would be my assumption. It doesn't really give you a reading on.
Or maybe a certain Viking had himself a little tasty chocolate treat.
Hey,
way back in the day.
You never know.
You never know, dude.
Yeah.
That was the love story. That was their version of Antony and Cleopatra.
I love it. What would it be? Leaf and I don't know Nigerian names. What's a Nigerian name?
Uganda.
Uganda. Ungandu? Oh, even better, right? The Viking was a girl named Lagatha.
Oh.
She fell in love with Ugandu. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And they went to town on each other the way lovers do.
Well, you know what they say. Once you go black, I don't know. Maybe
You'll eventually end up turning super mixed like everybody else.
I was gonna rhyme it with crack, but that's probably pretty racist. So I'm glad you cut me off. Um, Ancestry is kind of a funny topic to think about because it's basically just going through a history of all of your distant relatives and who they fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Is essentially what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, let's follow the tree.
Let's follow the tree of penetration.
Yeah, the tree of penetration.
The penetrative line.
Let's follow the fuck tree all the way through to figure out who fucked who when.
Let's go through our shaft of heritage. The long shaft of our family heritage.
The long steady shaft of our heritage.
Yeah.
Who fucked who and when did they do it? I mean, they say that by like the year 2100 or something, America is going to be, I don't know. I'm throwing out numbers that I don't know whatsoever, but eventually you would assume that as we've become a global society and more people are fucking different types of people, we're all going to end up as sort of one race or one color. You know what I mean? Like Rihanna. We're all going to be just like an olive-skinned, probably dark-haired, probably dark-eyed cultural society. It would make sense unless, Trump wins in 2024 and we ban all Mexicans from entering the U.S., in which case we'll stay pretty white. But you would think,
I don't know. We'll find ways to get them over.
They always do. You put up a wall, they build a ladder. Fucking who's the dude?
First off, let's just not think about Trump getting back into the chair.
Oh, it could happen.
Yeah, I know. But fuck it.
Where do you think Trump's genealogy comes from?
I'm sure Google would let us know.
He probably would, but I don't know.
My guess is he's probably your basic white boy with a lot of like British Isles and maybe like German.
I'm kind of thinking German. He has an oppressive kind of quality to him.
That actually brings up what I wanted to bring in. Ancestry. Donald Trump's paternal ancestry is traceable to Bobenheim, Amberg, Germany.
Oh, yep.
18th century.
German.
Yeah. That's I was going to bring up certain like emotional traits carried on through genetics. And so like as an example, maybe a lot of Western European ancestry has this long history of like war and violence. And so there might be, traits that come in that might be a little bit more aggressive and angry and things like that. And I guess there's been doing research on like, well, personality traits, like how people get angry and things like that, can be very well linked to our genetics. And they have to deal with serotonin genes and like the way that our certain genetics distribute serotonin through the body. And so I don't know if that would be a more of a, if the actual actions of, let's say anger and violence would be a cause of having those genetics. And so is that necessarily breeding anger, or is it just a response to a certain serotonin genetic that we have,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, stereotypically, when you look at Western Europeans, like, I don't know, you think of the French as being pussies and being very sort of like, ho, 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 I just want to eat my baguette with cheese. But also that's where not France as much, but like Western Europe is where a lot of the sort of I'm trying to think. This helps. This helps sometimes. I need something to fucking play with sometimes. The I don't know, fucking Portugal is a tiny country on the very western bank of Europe, and they were huge colonizers. They took over fucking, I don't know, Brazil, like a bunch of South America. England obviously fucking was in control of like almost half the world. The French did a lot of colonizing and invading of Africa, especially Western Africa. There's a lot of like sort of French dialect that comes through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually post the Roman Empire, it's basically been Western Europe that has been the aggressors for 1,500 years, over 1,000 years, and just going through and just fucking shit up, fucking romping, stomping Homo sapiens. But then it's also weird that now, like, those are sort of seen as more sort of delicate countries post World War II, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's in the genetics, but yeah, I don't know. That is interesting, though, that genetics play a role on your sort of even as like the basic emotions of like anger and being hot-headed,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm curious how, in like chicken and egg scenario, obviously if we look at our long line of like going back to early humanity and how they had to fight for survival, it's very different from the past couple thousand years where we've kind of more or less had a hold over, or we kind of exited the general circle of life, so to speak, where we were building civilizations and kind of giving ourselves a degree of separation from the natural world. But I guess when research like that comes up, I'm curious of, let's say, what would the karmic repercussions be of 1,000 years of violence in a society, and how would that affect genetics? Because mutation comes through obviously by accident when we think about how we think about it biologically, but also like, can mutations also occur through experience? And so let's say some people weren't necessarily that angry, and then like first the Huns come and fuck them up, or like the Romans come and fuck them up, and then the Huns come and fuck them up, and then the Vikings come and fuck them up, and then the Catholics come and fuck them up, and like it's just like this 1,000 years, and then the Reichs come and fuck them up, and then so it's like
You're basically just describing the whole just history of Eastern Europe.
Yeah, that's where I was going for. Yeah,
fucked up by anybody.
And now a lot of Ukrainians are getting fucked up by Russia, and so it's like you're not gonna necessarily survive by being an all-loving, non-violent society. You're gonna have to fight back, and in order to fight, you're gonna have to get aggravated and things like that. And so obviously these are all just responses that our genetics allow us to have, but I'm curious if it also has a further karmic lineage effect through our genetics.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's more situation based. I don't know. There's the quote, hard men make easy times easy, or hard men make soft times, or something like that. And soft
men
times
make hard times. Like the switch.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you grew up in Kazakhstan, or Uzbekistan or Ukraine in the 60s and the 70s, it was a fucking rough time for you. And that ends up building stronger, more resilient people as opposed to, I mean, you can take the example of just us in America, where like COVID hits, we don't know if we're going to be able to get toilet paper.
Yeah.
So everyone buys all the fucking toilet paper to freak out. It's where like I've made this comparison before, like not comparison, but worst case scenario, if you run out of toilet paper, usually right next to the toilet, there's a shower in most people's homes.
And so that's going to clean your butt better than paper.
Yeah, exactly. And bidets are a thing. So it's, I don't know.
Yeah. Not really in America.
They're coming on strong. This episode is brought to you by Tushy. Free bidets. If you go to tushy.com/NFZ. This podcast is also brought to you by Ancestry.com, where you get 20% off figuring out who fucked who 1,000 years ago.
Take a look into the your fuck tree. A deep look into your fuck tree with Ancestry.com.
Take a gander. Ancestry.com/NFC for 20% off figuring out your fuck tree. I don't know. Regardless, it's kind of a moot point, but us as Americans, we've had it so easy for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when COVID hits, we're worried about toilet paper.
Yeah.
Whereas, like the rest of the world is, you know, if I get a cold, I'm going to die, as opposed to this new virus that we've never seen before, that we don't know how it reacts.
Are you familiar with the Pax Romana?
That sounds very, very familiar.
It was like a historical event in Rome. I think it translates to the Peace of Rome. I could be wrong. But I believe it's set in after the reign of Marcus Aurelius, in and around that time, where there's about 200 years where Rome wasn't really at war. And so their society was becoming very, very cultured, and everything was, you know, technology was advancing, culture was progressing, health was progressing, food and diet was at its height. And, you know, I think a lot of historians view the Pax Romana as some of a softening of the Roman society, and might have contributed to, you know, the fall. Obviously it's not the only contributing factor, but it might have helped, because, and then you look at all the enemies coming in who are like war torn and what am I trying to say?
Yeah, the Visigoths.
They've been kicked out of their
were
homes.
hard as fuck.
They're all looking for a new homeland. Like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, the Huns, everyone's fucking us up. We're coming in, whether you like it or not. And that is just coinciding with what, like 6 or 7 large tribes all kind of coming in over the period of a couple hundred years. Like, that's gonna fuck some shit up. Like, that's a crazy infrastructure. So,
well, Rome, the Roman Empire had never really been invaded.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of liken that to like America. We've never had, I don't know. I mean, since the Civil War, we've never had a war on American soil. It's always been fought elsewhere. So we've never really experienced what war is. You know, the closest thing of an act of war literally on American soil would probably be 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes sense that, you know, like America, like, you know, the Roman Empire back in the day that had the Pax Romana, whatever, however you pronounce it. If you've never been in war, then you don't know what war is like. Whereas if you're just, you know, a more, this is the wrong word, but a more brutal society, you're just, I don't know, that's another Tuesday for you,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like, yeah.
And obviously, you get breeding that's gonna more and more brutal genetics are going to be passed on than non-brutal genetics.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's the idea of the alpha male.
And that's our fuck tree, just a bunch of brutal fuck boys.
It kind of fucking is. Genghis Khan. So I looked up the stats. It's not as dramatic as I thought originally. It's 0.5% of the entire world has Genghis Khan's actual, and that's actually how you pronounce it. I've been saying Genghis Khan for my entire fucking life, and then
it's
I
got
found
that
out
H in front of it, right?
yeah, or it's GH.
Yeah.
And that means Je. So
Genghis Khan.
I've been trying to correct myself and not say Genghis and say
Yeah,
Genghis Khan. Anyway, half a percent of the entire world's population actually has Genghis Khan's DNA in them.
I mean, that's still really impressive. I mean, think about people in Chile having 0.5% of Genghis Khan's genetics in them.
Yeah, I don't think it percentage. I mean, obviously the percentages are closer to sort of Central Asia when it happens.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I don't know
the entire world.
So, but like when you do the averages,
Okay.
but I think it's 20% of males that are living in that sort of region of Mongolia directly carry his genealogy, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, totally.
But that's like what you were saying is that's the Vikings. That's ancient Rome when they were burning down the city of Troy. And the alpha male is the one who's going to end up propagating his seed further through, like the aggressive male, especially before sort of modern society. The aggressive male is the one who's going to be able to spread his seed farther than the sort of passive. It's like in I'm sure you watched the movie Year One with Jack Black and fucking what's his name?
Michael Cera.
Yeah, Michael Cera. George Michael from fucking Arrested Development. But yeah, it's like there's the main guy in the tribe. He's the leader. And then you've got Michael Cera, who can't get a look from any of the girls in the tribe. And that comes down to, it's the same thing why, straight cisgendered males, or whatever you're fucking supposed to say anymore, straight white males or straight males, the reason why we like big tits and a big ass is all evolutionarily based. Is we look at some big tits and we go, those tits are going to be able to feed like 1,000 babies. And look at that big fucking ass with the fucking wide hips. She's got a birthing canal that will accept 1,000 babies. That's why we're genetically just predisposed to like that. Because, and inversely, it's females generally want a male that they think is going to be able to provide and to keep her and her baby safe. So obviously the person who's going to be able to keep you and your baby safe is the one who's fucking just bubbling over with testosterone, aggressive as fuck, and beats the shit out of anybody. So it's a weird moral question of like, yeah, it's like back then that's the person who was going to, be able to provide for you. But that's not the kind of person that you generally want to be around, is a fucking asshole aggro maniac who's going to beat the fuck out of anybody. And that's where like a lot of the modern day conflictions, I think, come from.
The clashing of the id and the super ego within all of us.
Yeah. Oh,
our base instincts are like, yeah. And our super ego is like, well, hang on. Like,
yep. But that's also reflected in men that are seen as sex symbols, like a Jason Momoa, fucking big, wide shoulders, bunch of fucking muscle, looks
A
like he can
beautiful man.
protect you.
Yeah.
But then it's also weird because Johnny Depp is also a sex symbol. And Prince is probably a better example. Prince was a a, a sex symbol and just like a god amongst females when he was around, but he was androgynous as all get out. And so was actually this, I don't know how we always end up getting back to Jesus, but Jesus was seen, and like Dionysus, they were seen as this androgynous sort of breed between men and women, like
Mm-hmm.
Baphomet. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the female and the male all coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Paul Atreides in Dune, when he is the Kwisatz Haderach. He is both the male mind and the female mind, and the generations of knowledge from all of the Bene Gesserit all filled his
Mm-hmm.
mind, and he was able to see both the female portion and the male portion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we ended up back at Dune.
That's good. That was a good bring up.
Honestly, it's like the Bene Gesserit they've been crafting the fuck tree of ancestry for thousands and thousands of years
Mm-hmm.
in the series. So that's actually like kind of a perfect, I don't know, topic to bring up. Like,
There's this beautiful symbolism that goes on with like it's the yin and yang, and then if you look at the masculine and feminine perspectives, the masculine is a more active and the feminine energies are more passive. And so through the lineage of Bene Gesserits only being women for so long, going to take, all the prepping and everything that they're doing. It's like, it's going to need to activate. And so symbolically, by bringing in their Kwisatz Haderach, which is like their Messiah, into play as a male who's going to naturally have that active role in his masculine energy, and then learn and adapt the feminine, more passive energy through the knowledge of the Bene Gesserit. So it's like he becomes a whole and is able to achieve, the works of the Messiah that were prophesized.
yeah. Yeah.
There'd be a lot of femmes who are like, you can't say the feminist is passive, that's sexist. And it's like, well, it's symbolic. Look at the act of our sexual activity. The man actively penetrates the woman and actively gives his seed to her while she receives it.
Yeah.
So it's symbolic, And I'm not saying that women are all passive. Obviously, that's not the case. It's an ancient form of describing the duality of nature.
Which, I mean, this isn't a discussion of, oh, one's a good thing, one's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Being passive is often the way to handle certain problems that come in your life. Also, being aggressive sometimes is the answer to those problems as well. It depends on context, it depends on so many different factors, but pacificity isn't necessarily, it's not a bad thing sometimes.
No, not at all. In fact, it plays just as serious an advantage in a different circumstance as being active or
or aggressive, or I mean,
it's all about the specifics of a situation and your intentions and what you want out of it.
Yeah, and generally what you want out of it is going to be self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as an example, if you're at a bar and some big fucking muscle-bound fucking fighter dude who's like trained in MMA bumps into you and you decide to be like, oh, I'm going to be the aggro male. I'm going to stand my fucking ground and tell this fucking guy to fuck off. You're going to sleep. But then there's also times where, like, if somebody, hurts someone that you care about or hurts someone that you love or does something, like, there's certain times where maybe some active aggression is needed, but it's not all the time. And I think that's where we're coming to a good balance in the world of, like, hopefully, probably not actually. We're actually probably leaning way on the other side, but hopefully we can get to a place where we understand that there's nuance to things and there's times to act aggressively and there's times to sort of, maybe I'm not going to splash the pot on this hand because I'm not necessarily liking the cards that are being dealt right now. So there's times for being that sort of pacifist, non-violent person. But then there's also times where, like, yeah, fucking, if anybody ever did anything to my mom, oh, fuck you up, dude. I will.
Yeah.
And and again, that goes back to the idea of the idea of Baphomet, of that mixture and the yin and yang, and also the androgynous, the Dionysian view of the world, of having that more sort of gray area look to it.
Reality, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, because you gotta have both.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be one or the other. It's
Exactly.
the same thing, like, in politics. Very few people are 100% liberal. Very few people are 100% conservative. Most of us are chilling in the middle. And there may be one or two different ideas that sort of sway us in one direction or the other. But for the most part, we're all hanging out in the middle. And I think that's more of the place you want to be, is not committing to, oh, I'm on this side of the aisle. I'm on the aggressive side, or I'm on the pacifist side. Obviously, you would assume that the Republicans, conservatives, are more on that aggressive, and liberals are more on that softer kind of side of things.
Yeah.
But there's room for nuance in all of this shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got into politics from going from genetics and the fuck trees, but it's there.
Well, we started talking about personality traits through genetics, and then we were talking about duality of personalities.
I can follow the stream, but I don't know why the stream went that way necessarily.
How did we get here? Don't worry, like, I've been charting, but
you're taking notes.
Yeah.
Timestamp. All right, Ryan said this weird thing that.
See, you're taking the active role of talking. I'm taking the passive role of listening. So you're taking us down the river, and I'm just taking notes of where we're going. You know what I mean?
You're just my my private historian.
Yes. Yeah, I'd be your lifetime scribe. I got you, dude.
I want you to be like a court stenographer. Just taking down just the brief highlights. You don't need to get every word perfectly, but just like with the old lady glasses.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. He has a pair of old lady glasses. So I probably have to head out in like 20 minutes. Do you want to tell me something?
You want to jump into a let me tell you?
Yeah.
Dude, all right, fucking.
Oi, I got something to fucking tell you right here.
Dude, let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Dude, I gotta fucking tell you. I have something to tell you. Let me fucking tell you something.
Let me tell you. All right, so on this week's fucking episode of Let Me Tell You, it's not even a fucking episode. On this week's segment known as Let Me Tell You, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some nuclear mishaps that happened.
Topical.
Very topical. I mean, honestly, I I think the creation of nuclear weapons was, in general, just a bit of a mishap on its own. Definitely
Happens from the culmination of thousands of years of violence. We need to build
thousands of
this.
years of violence and superiority.
Power struggle.
We definitely we tugged on the tail of a sleeping dragon. I'm definitely gonna edit out that. Let's try that again.
Repeatedly.
We sort of tugged on the tail of a sleeping dragon when we unlocked the nuclear power. So, cut to pre-World War II, especially in the 1930s, the late 1920s. Huge rise in anti-Semitism comes over the German-speaking population of the world. Okay, let me tell you, a lot of them Jews didn't appreciate it. Okay, a lot of those Jewish scientists said, "Hey, I don't feel so good around all these fucking krauts." Okay, so a lot of them fucking German Jewish scientists. Now I'm just doing Andrew Dice Clay. And all of them fucking Jewish scientists came over to America. Oh! They decided to make the very wise decision to flee Germany and Austria and Switzerland. You know, Albert Einstein is probably the most prolific one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to play the clip. I'll probably just insert it later. But the quote from Robert Oppenheimer, who was essentially the head of the Manhattan Project, which is the project that was, developed in southern Nevada, Area 51. You know what I mean? Fucking Los Alamos, Bob Lazar. All these things are connected. Robert Oppenheimer, his quote, when they actually exploded the first successful nuclear test. I'm going to play that right now.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't he have like a...
Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Oof. Heavy as fuck. The god Vishnu shows his true form and says, "I have become death, destroyer of worlds." And that's a very poignant quote for the creation of the nuclear weapons. So, cut forward to it got fucking deleted, but I told you the story of the USS Indianapolis. Maybe I'll tell you again sometime.
Yeah.
Maybe just let me tell you again sometime.
Yeah,
and we can go back to it. But that was a boat that was carrying a part of Little Boy. So the two bombs are Little Boy and Fat Man. Little did a lot of people know that a third plutonium core was created, and it was supposed to be placed into the third bomb that was going to be dropped on Japan. But they surrendered after the second bomb, after Fat Man was dropped. That was the first hydrogen bomb. Little Boy was the first just straight nuclear bomb. Anyway, let me tell you. So this other core that's been floating around, do you know what they called it? They called it the Demon Core. Which again,
core.
Fucking heavy as shit. So,
was it supposed to be a bigger, badder bomb than the Little Boy and Fat Man?
No, they didn't use it in a bomb. So they decided, like, okay, let's see if we can study how we can reach criticality without having to actually detonate this. How close can we get to criticality? So they take this just chunk of radioactive plutonium, and they're basically gonna shield it. The first test was with tungsten, I believe. Tungsten bricks around it, and the whole idea is if the core is contained within an area that's going to reflect the neutrons, reflect the electrons back inwards, then that will start increasing the reactivity of the device. So they take tungsten bricks, and they're starting to sort of like build a little sort of cave around this plutonium bomb. And the scientist that I can't remember the name of is going to place the last brick of tungsten on the core. He starts getting a reading that if he puts this last brick in place, the core will reach supercriticality and it will turn into a nuclear bomb. So he goes to pull the brick back and he drops it, and it lands enough to enclose the actual device itself, the actual core itself. The core starts going supercritical, shines a blue light all over the place, and the scientist is able, with his last movement, basically knocks the brick out of the way. And the core sort of goes back to being sort of stable as a reactive core can be. I'll put up the picture now, but the picture of his hand, the one hand that touched the tungsten brick, within 7 days is almost completely disintegrated. It's one of the highest doses of radiation anybody has ever gotten at that point. Americans flying a little bit too close to the sun. A little bit of Icarus action.
Mm-hmm.
They ceased to wear their prosperity with modesty.
With modesty. What's the
So,
American dream? I can have it all.
Yeah, I can make this fucking shit happen. I can do it. So let me tell you. So this guy dies in the fucking hospital 7 days later. Highest dose of radiation poisoning that anybody has ever gotten at that point. So his other scientist buddy is in the hospital with him, just taking care of him and helping him out and just kind of being there with him as he dies.
Mm-hmm.
This next scientist has the big old brains to think like, this guy's a fucking idiot. I can do this better. I'm going to create a full spherical hemisphere type design where I can enclose it, and basically same idea as the tungsten bricks. It's going to fucking, hold all the electrons and keep them bouncing and sort of reacting within, a controlled area. And let me tell you, this guy, big fucking balls on him. Okay. Cojones the size of fucking mangoes.
Do you remember his name?
No, but I could probably look it up. I'm not good with names and facts. So the first scientist's name was Daglian. I can only get the last name. But then the next guy, Louis Slotin, he was the one who thought that he could,
place it in a sphere.
Yeah, exactly. Place it in a sphere, and he could do a little bit more of a controlled test in his mind as opposed to just tungsten bricks. So he takes out normally the top of the hemisphere, like the top half of the sphere, had sort of supporting braces underneath to keep it from closing all the way. Because if it closes all the way, then that's when you reach supercriticality. And that's when the core is sort of turned into a bomb, essentially. In his mind, he's like, fuck it, I got this shit. I don't need those fucking those support pieces. I can do this by myself with a flathead screwdriver, and that'll be fine. So, goes to do it, goes to lower the hemisphere down to get as close as he can to criticality before it actually reaches criticality. And he had done this test dozens of times. This time, the screwdriver slips. The hemispheres connect. And now the core of this, the demon core, is reaching super criticality. This dude, I mean, smart fucking man, knocks the top of the hemisphere off with his bare hand, and now gets even higher of a dose of radioactivity than the first guy does, and dies 7 days later in the same hospital with the same nurses taking care of him.
That's shitty.
It's interesting to me of just the idea of we've been fucking with shit that we don't know about.
Those are some good, let me tell you, man.
Let me tell you, man.
I didn't know any of that about the Demon Core. It's fucking cool. Were they fucking with the Demon Core before the Fat Boy and Fat Man and Little Boy were dropped, or was this like post World War II experiments?
It was technically post World War II, but the first initial test, what's his fucking name that I just said, Dalglian, Daghlian. That happened. The initial test was a week after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is all just very post World War II. And I don't think they were planning on saving the Demon Core for a third bomb that they would drop. And then after they didn't, it wasn't necessary to drop that third bomb because Japan surrendered. That's when I think they went like, okay, well, let's fucking experiment with this, which is so hindsight. I'm going oh yeah, we just blew this shit up. Now let's take a look at it and see what's actually going on and see when we can reach criticality.
Yeah. Well, we birthed it into the world. It served its purpose, and now we got to live with the repercussions of that.
Yeah. Well, and the first thing that anybody thinks of when you say a nuclear disaster, people think of probably Chernobyl, which was obviously a huge disaster. 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, and like Fukushima. In Japan. But the amount of close calls that we've had way before nuclear power was really prevalent and sort of put into place, we've almost wiped out the world 100 times over, numerous times.
Just by testing and studying, with fission and fusion bombs.
Yeah, and then they were doing experiments. Both the Russians and the Americans were doing experiments with high altitude bombing, which essentially fucking blew apart the ozone layer of the world. Basically blowing up nukes in space. There's stories of UFOs capturing nukes that were supposed to go off in space and sort of pulling them into their ship and disarming them. The stories, whatever, you hear what you hear.
I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely I like the phrase that that they used with the Demon Core of just tugging on the sleeping dragon's tail, and that dragon almost fucking woke up, and we wouldn't be here today if it had.
Dude, I like those. Let me tell you this, man.
Dude, let me fucking tell you.
I didn't fucking know any of that.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's Icarus. Flying just a little bit too close to the sun when we don't really know what we're doing.
Yep.
But,
and, America is so good at being kept in hindsight.
That could be either a foe or a member of Spooky Dookie's team.
He Captain Hindsight's a character in South Park.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There we go. I was gonna say that's.
I think he's from Coon and Friends episodes.
Isn't it Butters?
and he just like run. I think it's like just a random guy, but he like flies around, and like where there's emergencies, he just tells people what they could have done to avoid them, and then flies away.
Yeah. God
Yeah.
damn it. I thought I had something there. I thought I had a good
Nah.
idea.
South Park did it.
South Park did do it because they did a whole episode on Simpsons did it. Fuck. So yeah, that's my let me tell you for the week.
Well, let me tell you, that was a good. Let me tell you,
Yeah. A little bit of nuclear war action. A little bit of World
learning
War
new
II.
things every day, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm beat, and I have to try to muster for the evening. So I might try to like take a little power nap. But this has been a great podcast, man.
Yeah, this has been fun.
It's been a good one.
Yeah.
I liked talking about genetics.
This one's been all over the place. We've gone down different rabbit holes. It's gonna take a lot of cutting out of shit. We're talking about fucking big tits and fucking huge dicks.
But we should leave that in. We're talking about genetics. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, you're the editor.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Yeah, right on, dude. Once again, thanks to anybody who watched or listened. Listened? That's a word. I've heard that before. Yeah. We'll catch you guys next time, I guess. And that's one to grow on.
And here's something to grow on.
You can grow on these fucking tits.
Behalf of white men everywhere are bad.
On behalf of white people across the world. Sorry, guys. We dropped the ball.
We dropped the bombs.
And the bombs were shaped like balls sometimes. Demon Core. Terrible. I'm going to go hang my head in shame. For that
Hey, you recorded today.
I was actually literally just checking to make sure that it was actually recording.